In this video, I want to take a little time to explain the visual essay assignment, just to make sure that you have a sense of what you have to be doing, especially if you want to either get an early start on it or you're already working on it and you can't remember exactly what I said in class, so you want to go back and get a refresher. So, visual essay assignment. If you scroll down in the syllabus, the first thing that's important is that you'll notice that it is worth 12.5% of your grade. That's a decent percentage of your grade. That's worth more than anything else but that final paper, that sociological autobiography, which is worth 40% of your grade. So you want to take this assignment seriously. It's more important than any of the quizzes, any of the in-class writings. This isn't something that you want to just blow off or do at the last minute. So what do you actually have to do? Well, this is one of the assignments, actually probably the assignment where you have the most creativity. Quizzes, you have to show that you understand the material. Obviously, in-class reflections is a chance to reflect on the type of stuff that we've talked about or what you've been reading in class. The visual essay, you get to choose what you want to explore in class, and you get to choose how you want to explore it. So your assignment here is to find 10 original photographs, or not find, take 10 original photographs, or come up with 10 original drawings, or even 10 modified digital images. Basically, I want you to have 10 original images, meaning I don't want you to just do a Google search. If you just search online, that doesn't count. That's not an original photo. The work is choosing the image and even creating it. Now, if you need something where, say, you're exploring a topic and it relates to a photo that you took in the past, you can use that. But I don't want all 10 photos to be from the past, unless maybe you're exploring something really specifically like parenting, and then you want to go through those family photo albums and get a sense of maybe that gives insight into how you were raised and you relate that to sociological ideas. Anyway, the point is 10 original images. So you're going to have 10 original images. Now, the key is those 10 images should show something about a topic or concept that we covered in class. So your assignment is you're going to come up with a topic or concept that you can explore visually. You're going to come up with 10 images that relate to that topic or concept. And then you're going to explain the connection between the two. Now, I am not grading you just on the quality of the image. This is not an art class. If you choose to do drawings, if you choose to do paintings, if most likely you choose to take photographs, you're just using your phone. It's not like I'm having you go to the darkroom and develop some film, or I'm going to grade on the composition of the photo. What I'm grading on is that you show intention and you have an idea and you explore it visually. I'm trying to push you to be creative beyond just a traditional essay. This is also a very important skill because as you go forth into the world, sometimes you need to be able to communicate ideas in written form. Other times, being able to visually communicate or explore ideas is really important. Whether you go into marketing, whether you go into working for a nonprofit, whether you have to do a presentation for any company that you're working for, the visual is really important. Now, in terms of what you actually have to write, so you're going to have these 10 images. If you want to have a few more than 10, that's fine, but you need to at least have 10. So you're going to put those on a document, on a single document. So you would put that on your Google document, on your Word document, on your Pages, whatever program you're using. You're going to have those 10 images, and above those images or below, you're going to have a title. The title can be very creative or it can be very straightforward, but you should have some sort of title for the project. The first paragraph is going to explain what interested you about the topic or concept from class. That's what I mean by topic or concept. So you'll explain it a little bit and you'll tell me what interested you. The second paragraph is explaining how the pictures you took relate to that topic or concept from class. That doesn't mean you're writing an explanation for every single photo. You're not writing 10 paragraphs. This is one paragraph where you talk about your photos as a whole. I was interested in the concept of parenting. So as you can see in all these photos, and you explain the different ways that we talk about parenting in that first paragraph, second paragraph, as you can see in all these photos, I explain the different ways that my parents raised me and the type of programs they put me into. And you can see the first cluster of photos, it's about being involved in youth sport. The second cluster of photos is about how I was enrolled in an experimental outdoor school. I don't know, wherever you go, right? You don't have to go through each single one. You say, as a whole, here's what I was trying to demonstrate. And then the third paragraph is where you connect the two things. That's where you do a little bit of analysis. Paragraph 1, I told you the topic from class I was interested in. Paragraph 2, I'm explaining to you why These are the photos that I took, or these are the images that you're looking at. Paragraph 3, here's what I can actually learn about this. And you could go either direction. You could say those ideas from class really helped me understand this topic. My experience is better. Or you could say, hey, these images help us understand the concept from class better. So it's only through 3 paragraphs. This is not a lot of writing. The main part is that visual aspect. Now, next, what I think is important is I've been talking about this a little bit in the abstract. I've brought in a few examples like the parenting one, but I want to talk a little bit more about how I would think about it in terms of what options would you have as you're trying to figure out what to explore visually. Continuing on. So, what options do you actually have when you think about, okay, I get that I have to do a photo essay or a visual essay, but what do I actually do? What do I explore? Well, you have some options. And I would say they fall into 3 categories. So you have 3 different options for what you're going to do. This is an image of how the original camera looked. And it used to be you had to stay in place for a ridiculous amount of time, which is kind of amazing when you look at old photos, how long people had to stay in place. That's a tangent. So you have a few options. First is go your own way. What I mean by this is go back to the syllabus and look at the syllabus and say, okay, what are the different topics that we covered? Is there something that immediately interested me? And really, you can relate anything to sociology, right? So maybe you say, I want to apply my sociological imagination to just something I've always been interested in, right? And in that case, you really are going your own way. You can do that as long as you show it's not just related to the individual, but related to larger social forces. You could explore literally anything as long as you take a sociological approach. And that's what I mean. By going your own way, you have a lot of freedom, but I can't really say what you're going to do. Right? Maybe you're interested in culture and you run with the ideas of values and norms. Or you had that reading that was about sacred objects, about the things that people took with them. Or Dan Winchester talking about those objects that people carry that, in a sense, carry the community and faith that they possess. Maybe you want to explore sacred objects and you just want to run with that. Maybe you want to explore the ideas of success and do some sort of study that captures what it means to be successful. Maybe you're a bodybuilder and you want to really delve into those ideas and think about how it applies to your passion. Or maybe you're going into the nursing field and you're curious what makes a successful nurse versus a not successful one. I don't know. Like, you can really take this lots of different directions. That's the exciting part and the challenging part of this essay. Any of the topics or concepts that we cover up to this point, that's fair game. If you want to study a topic that we have not quite gotten to, so this can't be you just saying, hey, I need an extra 2 weeks to work on this assignment. But say you look at the syllabus and you're like, you know what? I really want to look at parenting. That's not going to give me enough time because the essays due at the end of the week. Or you say, I really want to look at segregation, but I don't have enough time to do that because obviously segregation falls after the essays already due. Talk to me in advance and I'll give you that extension so you can explore what excites you. So going your own way is saying there is something that interests me on the syllabus. I'm going to go out on that path. Now, what I think most of you are going to do is one of the second 2 options, the second or third options. Second one is specifically exploring symbolic interaction. Symbolic interaction, in my mind, is the basis for this visual essay. It's one of the dominant forms of or approaches to sociology within sociology, and it translates very well to the visual. Meaning, maybe you want to explore how symbolic interaction plays out through fashion. And so as you can see in the image on the right, here's this person and they are wearing a vest and they have all these different pins. Those pins have meaning. They communicate something. Those even the cut of the shirt, the way the shirt is, the color of the shirt, the t-shirt that they're wearing, the color of their hair, all that communicates something. So in your essay, maybe you want to explore symbolic interaction of a particular subculture. I want to explore the punk scene. So I'm going to delve into all the different meanings and rituals that are part of communicating that you're part of a punk scene and how other people in that scene can read those symbols. Or maybe you want to explore a certain type of symbol and see how people use it across different subcultures. I want to look at actually I had a student do this, a really good project where they looked at the pins people had on their bags or clothing and just thought about what that communicated. That would be great. Maybe you want to do a project completely on hair and all the symbolism and culture that's tied up with hair. I've had some really good projects on that. I had one person who went to a hair salon and got permission from the people who were there and talk to people about what type of hair they chose, what meaning they attached to it. Great project. On the left, I have an example of what's called breaching. Breaching experiments are really common in social psychology, that bridge between sociology and psychology. And what a breaching experiment is you break a social norm and you see how people respond. On the top left, it's a really famous breaching experiment that students do all the time, which is you face the wrong way in an elevator and you don't tell anyone what you're doing and you see how they respond to it, especially if it's a group of people. Or on the bottom left, looks like it's a person in a college study lab where you often eat snacks and drink while you're working on your reading, doing your reading for class and working on homework, writing essays, but it looks like she's eating a cabbage. Just to see how people respond to this thing, right? You break a tiny social norm, and by seeing how people respond, as we talked about in class, that tells us a lot about the rules of social interaction. So for the symbolic interaction, what I'm saying is you can choose any of the terms, whether it's front stage, whether it's backstage, whether it's setting, whether it's roles, and you can explore it through the visual. This is a really good type of project. I think this is the most straightforward one. The third option is saying, I'm really interested into what data can show and thinking about why we believe the things we do and why often what we believe is wrong. So for example, maybe you want to do research and come up with a series of charts about crime trends and different types of crime trends. And maybe you want to do it just in the city that you grew up or in Rochester, or maybe you want to do urban areas or rural areas or by state. That would be a really cool project. Now the 10 images here would not be photos, right? I mean, you can do a mix. You can always do a mix of different types of images, but here would be most likely graphs. If you want to come up with 10 graphs, that's a wonderful project, right? And if you have questions about that, we can talk, but you could just look at data. I actually had a person do a really cool project last year where she looked at, I think all phones do this, cell phones, but iPhones in particular, you can go into your settings and it will show you your usage, like what apps you spend the most time on. And she had people track that over the course of a week to look at what you've actually been spending your time on. And people don't even realize how much time you have Instagram open or Snapchat open or versus your email or how many messages you send, how much you're actually making calls versus FaceTime, like all that type of stuff. Really fascinating project. Now, the other thing that I want to say before I end, because hopefully this is giving you some ideas of the different directions you can go. And again, go the way that excites you. If you're really into shoe culture, explore shoe culture. If you're really into doing research on marketing trends, do some research on marketing trends. That's really fascinating. I just want you to communicate some sort of sociological idea through a visual medium. Now, the final thing I want to say is maps are really useful. So this is something that a student created just by going on Google Maps, and then you can mark out a route that you take. And what they were doing, it wasn't this project actually. I forget what this project was. The student was exploring. Another student used maps because they were exploring what Walmarts looked like in different settings, a rural setting versus a suburban setting versus a more urban setting, and trying to get a sense of how the Walmart itself was a reflection of the location, and they were exploring segregation within Rochester and the surrounding area. So maps are really useful if you want to look at housing, if you want to look at where schools are located, if you want to just look at access to any type of resource or just the layout of the city and suburban areas, maybe something with education. Maps are incredibly useful, and this counts as an image. Now, this is a digital image, but this isn't just a search on Google. This is an image that's actually created, right? So hopefully this provides some insight on what the project is. And again, email me if you have questions. Talk to me during office hours if you have questions.